Welcome back to the Pair Program. I'm your host, Tim Winkler, joined as always by my co-host, Mike Gruen. Mike, this weekend is the Kentucky Derby, and I've always been a big fan of picking horses, just kind of based on the name, of course, the most logical way to determine the winner. So it had me thinking about if you had to name a Derby horse after like the startup ecosystem, what name would you go with?
I mean, the one that pops immediately to mind is like stealth mode, just because like every startup, that's the name of their company. So maybe it's something like that. Moonshot. I don't know.
I had a few in mind too.
I'm curious if you had any.
Exit strategy. I like founder fatigue. Shortened runway, unicorn dreams.
Something unicorn is. I'm trying to think of something with a unicorn. I just can't. I can't put it together. But yeah, I like exit. I like exit.
Founder fatigue, though.
Yeah, Lucas, what was that?
I said I don't know that I'd bet on founder fatigue. I don't know if that's the right word to bet on. Yeah,
that guy's he's gonna trail out. He's gonna lose steam quickly, I think. So.
hard pivot.
Either way, that'll come full circle on my pairings here today. But I'll give a quick overview of today's episode. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that should be top of mind for most company leaders out there, cybersecurity, but specifically the unsung heroes behind the scenes who are kind of keeping our system secure. I'm talking about the SOC analysts, incident responders, the cybersecurity teams that are working late nights while we sleep. So today we're tackling something that doesn't get enough airtime, which is kind of like this, this idea of burnout in the cybersecurity space and how AI could help, fix it instead of making it worse. And so to help us kind of tackle that topic, we're joined by a couple of all-star guests who bring both vision and experience to the conversation. First off, we've got Billy Macmillan, the Chief Product Officer at Andesite, cybersecurity startup. Billy's had a very unique journey from serving as a CISO at the CIA to leading InfoSec at Salesforce, and now shaping human-centric security products at Andesite. Billy, thanks for joining us on the pod.
Great to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. And then alongside Billy, we've got Lucas Moody, CISO at Alteryx, an AI and data analytics software company. Lucas has held senior security roles at Twitter, Rubrik, and Palo Alto Network. So a pretty healthy resume there. So he'll bring a great, well-rounded perspective for just building strong, resilient cyber teams. Lucas, thanks for joining us on the pod.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah. All right. So just to kind of break right into our fun segment, we call Pair Me Up. We're just going to go around the room. Everybody kind of rattles off a pairing that's meaningful to you. Mike, you always lead us off. What do you got for us today?
Yeah, so we're going back to one that's a little more abstract, agency and initiative. So one of the things that I've found over the course of my career is I like building teams that have lots of agency, give them all the room they need, all the context they need to be able to act. But the flip side of that is that, you need people on the team that have that drive, that take that initiative. Like you can create all the time and space in the world, but if there's not people on the other side to receive it, it doesn't go very well. Similarly, I've worked at plenty of companies that try to say that they create all that initiative. They want people, they hire people for initiative and drive and the rest of it, and then they don't give you any agency or authority to do anything. So just having a lot of conversations this week with a lot of people that sort of brought that to the forefront of what's stifling your team or what's happening, and agency and initiative, the two different sides of the same coin. If you want to have a good team, so a little more abstract than usual, but just something that was top of mind.
Yeah, I was like, no cream cheese and cucumbers. Just going deep with this.
Going deep this week. This week was a deep week. Yeah.
Hey, need the deep week. Yeah, I like it. Rolls off the tongue well as well. All right, I'll jump in real quick. I kind of alluded to it in the intro, but I'm going to stick with the Kentucky Derby theme and go with the Kentucky Derby and mint juleps. Love a good mint julep on Derby Day. Just the Woodford Reserve, muddled mint, simple syrup, and in my opinion, the key ingredient is got to be that shaved ice, because if it's just the cubed ice in there, it's not really sure it's a mint julep. So every year at the Derby, I go out of my way to go to Chick-fil-A, get a bag of their kind of like that pellet ice just for this reason alone. So I'm going with the Kentucky Derby and mint juleps for my pairing. I'll pass it over to our guest, Billy. Quick intro and your pairing.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to harken back to my roots. I grew up on the Canadian border in Western New York in Niagara Falls. So I'm going to go with Canadian beer and buffalo wings.
Oh, nice.
I love it. What's like a Molson Golden? What's the Canadian beer that's coming top of mind for you?
Yeah, definitely the Molson brand. I'm a big fan of Molson Canadian. A little Labatt's Blue never hurt, in the lineup there. So I'm a little bit old school that way.
And then, a couple of choices debated, pretty aggressively. You going blue cheese or going ranch?
Oh, it's not even close. Blue cheese.
I like a good definitive answer, right? Yeah,
that's the right answer. Yeah, that's right.
Ranch is for amateurs.
I love it, Billy. Thanks for joining us again. Lucas, quick intro and your pairing.
Yeah, no, thank you. Lucas Moody, Alteryx, CISO here for about 3 years. And let's see, since Billy already went with a beer pairing, I was going to say Jameson and Bud Light because I'm an expensive drunk. But I'm going to go, since we've got that, I'm going to go, since it's Friday and we're coming off RSA week, and I need a little bit of like decompress time after all that talking. My voice is not even back yet. I'm going to go with Friday nights and immersive single player video games because I think I'm going to do some of that. I'm going to get some of that on tonight. So,
that's awesome.
Nice. Like turn the lights down, get stuck into a game, get the headphones on, nobody bugging you, just to decompress solo time. I think that's what I need a little bit of love on.
What game we going with?
That's a good call. So Oblivion just came out with a remaster, so I might hop into that. But I might depends on if my daughter wants to play. We've been trying to finish up some Split Fiction.
Okay.
A 2-player kind of tag team co-op game. So one of the two of those probably.
That's cool. Did you by chance ever get into Last of Us?
I did. I played Last of Us, the original, back on PlayStation a million years ago. But when they did release the PC version, when the new TV show came out, I did end up playing that again. It's really cool. I highly recommend.
Yeah, I'm on the series, so it's got me fully entrenched.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Last of Us 2 to come out on PC.
Yeah, so. That's cool. Good stuff. I thought you were going to say something like, like RSA and like throat lozenges, like, because I know those events, man, it's nonstop talking. So
it really was. And, and then it was, events in the evenings. I was, I did the masochistic thing and ended up hosting an event Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night.
Oof.
So psychopath.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Good stuff. All right. Well, that's a good round. Let's go ahead and shift gears real quick into today's episode. So again, this conversation will kind of follow a flow that mirrors the cybersecurity journey that many teams are on, starting with the human toll, inside the SOC, through leadership insights and into the promise and pitfalls of AI integration, right? I think everybody's got an opinion on how AI can impact this space, and understanding, how we, protect our people as much as we protect our infrastructure. And so I'm excited to dive in and hear a little bit more from both of you guys. So let's kind of set the stage here with kind of the state of play. Burnout among SOC analysts is a common or hot topic, and for good reason. And so, Billy, you've kind of seen this from both public and private sectors. What do you think is kind of driving some of this fatigue?
Yeah, great question. So, for 25 years, we've really kind of flooded the zone in cybersecurity with a lot of point solutions built by a lot of really talented people with the best intentions in the world. But the net result of a quarter of a century of that is that we've just absolutely pummeled the humans at the middle of these workflows. And so they're constantly trying to sort through this, state of data deluge, this alert fatigue that we talk about so much. And it takes a toll And my particular perspective for the last few years, I've been very public and sort of vocal about this, is we really have to start focusing on the humanware of security operations and really start wrapping the tech around the people instead of the other way around, making the people sort of turn themselves into pretzel knots to use the different pieces of technology, constantly toggling between different point solutions, et cetera. And it's very, very real. So, there's a million studies on this. But just to give your listeners, sort of a feel for the order of magnitude of the problem, over 50% of organizations talk about not being able to get enough cyber talent. And in some studies, upwards of 90% of cyber and IT professionals cite burnout as something that's affecting them. So like this is massive. It's not a little problem at the margins. It's something I really believe as an industry we need to get very, very serious about.
Yeah, it's well said. We're also a company that, dials in a lot on the talent and recruiting side of things. And it's always a constant need, and just seems like it's a supply and demand issue there. Mike, I know that you've got a lot of thoughts on this from some of the work that you've done at Cyber in the past, but let's really quickly get a perspective from you, Lucas. How about yourself and thoughts on that subject?
Yeah, look, everything that Billy said resonates. I think it's more, we've got this point solutions and all these different products that we're having to necessarily pay attention to because we've got that responsibility for our organizations. But, there's more to it than that. There's a lot of things that, we've kind of, we've spent years investing in this tech and we've been buying into this idea that we need to know about and be informed of more and more and more, with less tooling on the back end to support the last mile, getting these things over the line and getting us to a place of risk managed, right? And so we continue hammering our analysts with more data, but we haven't provided the right tooling, or maybe the tooling just wasn't there yet. And I think we're at the precipice of something brand new. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that and how AI is really helping to solve for this. But we haven't really had the tooling to enable analysts to kind of offload some of the more repetitive work. And that's, I think, leading directly into this burnout that we're talking about. And so I'm really optimistic as to where technology is today and how that is going to enable us to finally get over the hump on making not only us as a collective, community better at this work, but also making the work more rewarding, allowing for those who are, have the responsibility of owning the stack to focus on the things that are more interesting, exciting, and that tickle the human mind in a more meaningful way. So I'm for all those reasons, I'm super excited about what stands in front of us in the next 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think on that, I totally agree. I think the where we were, say, even 5-7 years ago, I remember like it was really in cybersecurity, a lot of it was snake oil in terms of what we could be doing, analytically. And I still remember a conversation with the founders at Signal Sciences, and we were looking for a WAF, and I was talking to them, and what sold me on them was they're like, we don't do AI. It's none of that. It's just descriptive statistics. It's super simple. And I was like, sold. Like at the time, like that was what we needed, and that's what I knew worked. But again, Lucas and I think William, but like, right, we have all the data we have creates data. Somebody needs to analyze that data, and I think we're finally at that point where technology is getting to the point where it's no longer snake oil. We can actually really solve these problems. And I'm really excited about like what's to come. And I'm curious, like I saw you guys nodding your heads a little bit, like, do you think like in the last 5 years, is that like, that's my assessment on on my side of that equation as the VP of engineering. Do you guys sort of agree that that's what's happened like over the last few years? It used to be a little more, they would say AI, but it was really just a bunch of if statements.
Yeah, I'm super, super optimistic about this space that you and Lucas are both describing, right? So here's the way that I would kind of summarize this. It makes me laugh a little bit when people chime in right now with all these like AI solutions coming online and they say, oh, we've been using AI for 20 years in the SOC and this and that. Well, I mean, to a degree, they're right? Like we introduced, following rule-based systems, we introduced, machine learning and then some deep learning on top of that. But the nature of those AI systems was very, very different than the Gen AI that's coming online right now. And as the person in the SOC buried in the data deluge, that difference is very, very relevant, right? So these other systems that relied on massive amounts of data and were therefore sort of, best implemented by the big platform players, they just increased the noise, right? They're just constantly flooding more information into the SOC. These new systems, what's so cool about them is that they can kind of eat all that noise and abstract the analysts out of it and surface insight, right? So the Gen AI, when you see it in practice in these applications that are beginning to roll out, it really is fundamentally different, as you guys are pointing out, and it starts actually solving the problem instead of adding to the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Billy, if I may, with you 100%. And actually, I think my Kentucky Derby horse would be signal to noise. On this point, not only, Billy, to your point, is the paradigm shift different now for the reasons that you described. I will double down on the one thing that I think modern, large language models are really good at. It's dealing with the deluge of data. Because the big, I remember, look, I we talked about my backdrop, and I think you had brought up, Tim, on my intro, you brought up the last 4 companies I was at. You go all the way back to the early part of my career. I actually grew up in ops. I built the security operations team at eBay PayPal 100 years ago. Wow. And that's what the job was. The job was me going through just a ton of data, trying to find some signal within it, trying to get to myself to a position where I can do something meaningful with that. And then I'd have to go and build a ton of context. And back then it was like batch process data pools. I would go and perform a query. And if I was lucky, 24 hours later, I'd get some data back that was useful. And if I wasn't lucky, I'd do it again. Right. And so we're just at this new epic on a go forward basis where AI can do all this for us so that we get to do the exciting stuff, put the pieces together and actually solve the escape room, if you will. So anyway, couldn't have put it better myself, Billy. I'm thrilled. And that's why this is truly a meaningful and different universe that we see in these next 12 to 24 months.
100%.
Yeah, Billy, I want to just kind of use this as a good jump off to talk about Andesite. Let's dive into that a little bit more about what you all are building and what does that actually mean in practice? Maybe some scenarios for us.
Yeah, well, I won't get markety on you, but I want to start I want to start by describing how we describe our tech. We think of it as a decision layer. Right. And I talk frequently about wrapping the tech very intimately around the human analysts who are in the middle of these workflows. Right. So the idea is, as a starting point, we can never make the analyst's life worse. We always have to make the analyst's life better. And the way we think of that decision layer is the connectivity, the fabric, the AI running in the background that proactively surfaces insight just moments before the analyst even realizes they need it. Right. That is the idea, is delivering insights at the edge of action. Right. Just as an analyst has to make a decision, has to implement some sort of remediation or whatever, you want that insight to be surfaced to them there in a way that they can use it very quickly. Right. So we are avowedly at Andesite human in the loop, and not everybody out there in the market right now trying to bring these things online agrees with us. I'll just very briefly use an example. This week, while at RSA, my teammates and I, some of us got in a Waymo. I had never been in a Waymo before, and it was super cool. And the technology was absolutely so impressive, and it took us the wrong way. And we had it did. It took us through Chinatown, which was really cool because I had never seen the big red lanterns at night. But it had absolutely no need to take us through Chinatown. And we didn't have the ability as the humans in that car to influence the route, right? So the human was out of the loop at a key point in a workflow where, we were wasting time and we were wasting energy. And so just like full self-driving cars, we do not believe at Andesite that SOCs are ready for fully autonomous AI. We think you still have to put the human at the point where they can have key influence and they can nudge things along.
That's funny because your experience was basically similar to any tourist in a city that takes a taxi, where the taxi just takes them on the longest route possible to drive up the cost.
Also, maybe the AI got trained on those human taxi drivers.
Exactly. That's the problem, right? You have biased data, you get biased AI.
Yeah, I mean, so you might have addressed it right there, but I'll just ask it directly, because I think this is one of the common things we hear, from a lot of different, specific roles on how is AI going to impact my position? Is it going to replace me? or is it going to empower me? Right. What is it that you kind of say to folks that are, asking that question? If there's a lot of noise out there that, is this going to replace an analyst?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky enough to be able to, have constant communication with our early adopter CISOs and talk to them and their SOC managers, their, VPs of SecOps, how they're thinking about this space. And I don't know a single one who's saying we can't wait to, put a bunch of our analysts out of work. Like, it's just not the way anybody's looking at the problem space. The conversation I lead when I'm engaging with these folks is I say, look, you go to bed at night worried about all the untreated risk. Right. Lucas mentioned risk management, which is ultimately what cybersecurity is all about. So if you're going to bed with unmanaged risk in the queue, then you're not, maximizing the team you already have. So our perspective is to deliver tech that elevates all of these analysts, abstracts them out of all of the toil, accelerates that, process of delivering insight and facilitating their decisions, and therefore puts them in a position to treat more risk. That's ultimately what it's all about, right? Is transforming your outcomes, reducing your organization's risk on a sort of a macro market-wide level. By some estimates, there are 3-4 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs. What I would like to see happen over the next decade as people adopt this technology is for that number to shrink, and for the analysts that are working in these SOCs, for their life to get better, for them to feel less stressed, for burnout to become a thing of the past, and for them to really enjoy their work again.
And I agree with right. There's a huge gap, right? There's that. I worked at a company that we were trying to solve the gap in cybersecurity and trying to get more people. It's one of the areas, there's more jobs than there are people, and so on and so forth. And how do you solve that? The one thing I'm curious about, is when you think about those sort of entry level analyst jobs, those are the ones that I think are always the most at risk when you start talking about bringing in AI and automation. And I don't know if there's what your thoughts are on that. And because to me, it seems like we're just bringing in more and more data and asking more people to do more and more. But do you think those entry level jobs are are those at risk in any way, or is this like an enabling thing?
I have a very strong opinion about this, and we have a very strong product opinion at Andesite about this. We pay special attention to tier ones, to these junior SOC analysts, and we build the platform in a way that democratizes tribal knowledge, right? So like in a traditional SOC environment without this type of technology, a SOC manager worries all the time about losing the tier threes, those super experienced analysts, right? Because they're the ones that have all the environmental expertise, all the domain expertise. They've seen and tried everything, right? And so you put your tier ones in this position where they just triage, investigate, escalate, and everything has to go up. What we do at Andesite is we build all of that environmental tribal knowledge into the platform so the AI understands it in context, and it's able to elevate the tier ones and let them do a lot more work. So in fact, the demo that we gave this week at RSA, we showed that a tier one with like essentially no background. Literally it could be, day one on the job in the SOC, fresh out of college. And anytime the analyst is stuck, the platform is suggesting paths that they can take forward. We don't trap them in playbooks or workflows. We think that's too brittle and it's limiting. I call it off-roading. You can always go off-roading with our product. So if you've got the skill and the intellectual creativity and energy to want to go in a different direction than the platform is suggesting, that's fine. And the platform will follow that work. And if and when you decide you're getting a little lost, you're straying from the path, it will steer you back with suggested queries and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. It's got the flexibility of individual, threat hunting type capabilities built into it. But it's also got those guidelines in case the junior analysts start to get lost.
Right. And that's always been my fear, is more of are we growing the tier three? Are we what are we going to do? We can't continue to eliminate. And that's more on the software engineering side. There's a lot of people, I think, there's a growing gap in people's knowledge because they've never had to set up systems. And then when they go to troubleshoot and stuff like that, it's awesome to hear that your solution sort of helps with that growing, that tier one to continue and helping them and enabling them. Lucas, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I was good. Yeah. I think to zoom out a little bit and maybe to build upon a point that Billy made earlier, I don't think there's a CISO out there in the world that would respond with, if you were to ask the question, like, do you feel like you're addressing all the risk in your relative organization, that anybody would say yes, like we've got a handle on it. I think what we've all had to do is be pretty selective and thoughtful around, like, what are we going to put in front of the human eyeballs? Because we've got a limited amount of resources that we can actually apply at the problem, and oftentimes the real risk ends up getting lost in that. We talked about it earlier, that signal to noise ratio. Like, hopefully we're following the right signals, but maybe we're not. And so the degree to which we can kind of, amplify the people in our organizations with the right tech so that we can focus on all the right stuff. There's, I don't think that AI is going to, replace any of the humans in this process. All it's going to do is make the humans better. And then to further the point, like I just did a panel on this, I think Tuesday morning at RSA. I got asked a very similar question, which is, is AI going to replace the people in security ops vertical? The answer is no. I think it goes back to like this cliche that we've all heard now a million times, but I'll repeat it here because I think it's really important, especially in this vertical. And I think it's, companies like Andesite are building the right tech to enable our security operations teams to do this well. AI is not going to replace the human, but people that know how to use AI in the right way will, right? And so, or AI isn't going to take your jobs, but people that know how to use AI in the right way will. And so I think that's really what this is about. How do we arm, how do we create, the operations, wing person to help our analysts do the right things? How do we clear out the elements of the role that, are elbow grease intensive, require for skimming through a lot of data, and really put the most challenging parts of the problem back into the hands of our operators. So that's where I think we're all super excited about what's coming next.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole playbook thing isn't like, look, if I can follow a playbook and do this, then I might as well just automate it. Like, what's the human in the loop for in terms of following a playbook? I think where I talk about AI as well is it gives you the time and space to think about your problems rather than having to like do the rote work of whatever it is. You can take yourself out a little bit and think at a higher level and maybe solve some bigger problems. And I am excited about what's happening, especially in cyber, because it is an analyst role. Like, that's right. And in order, you need time, you need to do the analysis.
100%. We're lucky enough at Andesite, we have a guy named Chris Merritt, who's a big thinker in the SecOps space, very well known. And one of the things he talks about all the time is the countless micro judgments that influence SOC work, analytic work, right? And so, going back to the Waymo thing, like if we could have communicated with our Waymo a little bit, we would have been able to take a completely different path, right? And we would have gotten there a lot faster. But those human micro judgments have to be captured in a human AI collaboration model that allows you to sort of nudge things along with that, the intellectual insights that are still the purview of humans and not AI.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, Billy, in terms of like, when you're going through like a discovery, call with a customer, in terms of just still like making sure that there's awareness of, having some guardrails in place, right? Still wanting to be cautious. Not over automating just like this SOC workflow. How do you kind of talk through those scenarios with customers, or maybe not you directly, but like, how are you all talking through that with customers to ensure that humans still kind of stay at the core and just knowing that this is how you empower those folks? Like, I could see a lot of, smaller companies, right, with smaller budgets being like, oh, maybe we just can get by with, really just kind of pairing this up with, just one junior analyst or whatever it might be, but just knowing that you're still trying to be diligent, but also, know that this isn't just the end all be all, and maybe just kind of picking up from that.
Yeah, I tend to frame it in terms of accountability, right? So we always say, we want to keep humans at the center of these workflows for human agency, but also human accountability. And CISOs get this, right? Like, nobody who in their right mind anytime soon is going to say, well, it's perfectly cool that the AI decided to, isolate that server farm that was serving our global customers, right? Like, human accountability is still a very important thing. We live in a weird time where, the SEC might come knocking and might ask CISOs for, background and context on why they made the decisions they made in a particular investigation. And you have to be able to show not only, what the AI did, which is what we call evidentiary AI. But also you need to be able to show that you mapped out workflows where humans are making the calls to do certain things that can't necessarily be undone without consequences, right?
Sorry, I'm just having 2001 Space Odyssey. I'm sorry, Dave. I can't allow you to do that.
I'd like to just take a moment to also just drive some awareness for the opportunities available for those that are, kind of considering getting into the security space at an entry level. Are there areas or programs that you kind of, direct folks to that might be, either later in stage in university or coming out of or maybe not even in university, right? Just looking to get into the space. Are there areas or resources that you've directed folks to? Because there's clearly a ton of opportunities available, but just need to kind of round out that workforce.
Lucas, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think security is a really interesting multidisciplinary vertical, right? And so I've generally pushed folks to basically get their hands dirty with tech. Going all the way back to my time at Palo Alto Networks, I mean, we were hiring folks into SOC from like non-technical verticals, even if they had curiosity, if they didn't like letting answers go unanswered. I used to joke back then, like, if you're the guy at the party that just couldn't let things go until you got to the answer, even if you're not in the computer science vertical, you might be right for the SOC. Because what we like is we like for folks that don't like things to go unanswered, right? And so, as we look forward and start to kind of, model out what really good SOC analysts might look for or look like in the future, these are folks that are going to be able to work with multidiscipline tech, really good at prompt engineering, really good at kind of looking at, a big, long time horizon issue and break it up into component pieces that you can digest. And so, I don't know if that's a good, clean answer, but it's somebody who's really curious, somebody that doesn't like letting questions go unanswered, and folks that, that are excited about like all the steps to get to the point where, as I said earlier, find an answer to escape the escape room. So,
yeah, we're really excited about baking training into workflows. That's and it's exactly for the same reason that Lucas is outlining here, right? Like to indulge that intellectual curiosity right there at the moment where they're wondering about something. The cool thing with this human AI collaboration model is like you can literally send the AI off, like, go do this thing for me or go research something for me. And, while it's chewing for 30 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever, you can learn right there in the workflow more about, ransomware or whatever the thing that's interesting to you, or, these living off the land techniques. And the platform can actually guide you within the context of like your own enterprise and things that have actually happened historically in your record of your investigations, those types of things. So the opportunity to train people right in their native workflows are getting really exciting.
Yeah, and Billy, if I can build on that, I'm glad you brought that up because I go back to kind of the pre-LLM era, so maybe left of the pandemic. I remember sitting in the SOC, working with a team of maybe 10 to 15 folks. In the heat of a pretty big incident. And I remember we sit in the room and we're making call outs, like somebody go and look up XYZ thing, somebody go get context on these assets. Do you mind going and making this phone call and seeing if we can get this person on the line? Could you go and, there's a reference to these things in DNS. I don't know what those are. Can you look those up? Is that an RDNS? And then all these questions now can be done with one curious person and an empowered platform. And you can, so now we can thread that 15 times for 15 unique things. And so it's just the ability for us in the future to empower folks, once again, to scratch that intellectual curiosity on the next step, getting all the answers, interrogating the data in a way where you actually can ask the data questions rather than having to go peruse it and come up with the insights on your own. It's just, all these things are going to lead to this really like this Cambrian explosion of our ability to do some really cool and amazing risk management for our companies. So I think the reward, the kind of the mental reward models are going to change in really drastic and cool ways. I mean, that way, like I'm actually jealous of what it's going to be like to be on the ground solving these problems again. I mean, it's been so long since I've been on the ground solving these problems. I've had teams to do it now for the last few years, but man, I'm excited about what it's going to look and feel like to be on the ground solving for large enterprise security issues.
And I think
I'm using Cambrian explosion.
It's like
I love that.
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting the being able to surface things. I think one of the things, I starting in the 90s as a software engineer, it used to be what do you know? Like when I went to go write code, I had to like know how to do these things, and then it really became like I know where to go to get the information. Like I don't need to remember all of the details of these APIs or that library or whatever. I know I can look it up. And now that's what I think AI is really enabling is, again, the humans to not have to remember everything, but just a place to go and get that information and know how to ask for that information and get it much more rapidly. And in this case, rather than going to like Stack Overflow, you're going to someplace that actually knows your stack, knows your systems, and can surface really solutions based on what you're looking at, rather than, trying to figure out, like piece together all of these things from the web. I think it's the right time. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's well said, Mike. And Lucas, I love your like enthusiasm, energy. It's clear that you just came out of RSA. You were pumped up. I love it.
Actually, I need a nap.
I couldn't tell.
So it's all adrenaline. That's
yeah. You still got that adrenaline running. Well, I do want to just make sure we add a little bit more of a well-rounded picture of where Andesite is at the moment, Billy. Before we close out to our final segment, just give us a little bit of some of the quick hits from a headcount perspective. If there's funding stuff you want to talk about, would love to hear, just to build that awareness, because a lot of folks that do tune in might be curious about opportunities over there.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that a lot. So the company's been around for about 2 years. We've really been working on our current product for about a year and a half. We're a seed stage funded company. We're deeply grateful to Red Cell Partners and General Catalyst for our very generous seed funding. So we've got a great resource profile. We'll probably be looking to raise an A by the end of the year. So financially, the company's in great shape and, has really good runway and all that type of stuff. In terms of headcount, because we were generously funded at seed by our very strategic investors, we've been able to grow the team pretty quickly. So we're well into the 40s. We'll by the end of the year, we'll be well over 50 employees.
Wow.
And a lot of that is engineering and product talent. So we're really able to, focus on differentiating this thing and getting it out there into the market. We launched the product in February. Early adoption is going extremely well. We're super excited. We're adding new functionality to it all the time. So anybody who wants a demo, go to andesite.ai and you can apply for a demo on the webpage, and you can check out a little bit about our leadership team and all of that.
That's cool. Yeah. And Lucas, obviously, Alteryx is still a little bit larger, but go ahead and just kind of, a little bit of an overview on terms of like, where you guys are as a company and, maybe some of the stuff that you're looking for folks that are looking to join.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Alteryx, for those of you that don't know the company, is a company in the data analytics space. We've been around for about 25 years and are one of the biggest companies that lots of folks haven't necessarily heard of. And so we're a billion ARR company in the data analytics space. And that's with an on-prem product, largely an on-prem product. And so what I'm really excited about, kind of thinking about today forward, is really transforming this product to be a cloud-first SaaS delivered product and taking advantage of what AI native companies can do with data on a go-forward basis. So we're really transforming our product to being kind of a toolkit for citizen data analysts to take advantage of what we just talked about, this deluge of data, not necessarily for security outcomes, although we can solve for some of that as well. But to solve for getting insights out of your data and driving workflows with your data to enable, whether you're in the IT vertical the finance vertical, the HR vertical. There's organizations that use our product to solve for business workflows that exist in every one of these areas. And so, look for us, Alteryx, Alteryx.com. And I'm happy to field any questions if you've got some excitement around us, being a citizen data analyst at your company.
Yeah, we'll direct folks for sure in the show notes as well. And I think all in, like, great conversation. I don't know if there's any final tidbits that you wanted to add into the overarching theme before we transition to the final segment. I'll leave it open for a second if anybody wanted to add anything before we close out.
I would just tell people to be really excited about this. Like Lucas said at the beginning, like I've never been so optimistic about tech finally helping us turn the corner, specifically in cybersecurity, which is my focus area. This stuff really is going to change the nature of these workflows for these overworked, overwhelmed, and heroic analysts that we've been burying with data in the SOC all these years.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Billy. I think for the first time in a long time, we had this, about 15 years ago, we turned this new corner, introducing cloud compute, and that was pretty transformative. I think this is an even big transformation that we're in. We've barely scratched the surface on the improved outcomes, the improved life of our analysts and other cybersecurity practitioners. I think we're at the precipice of something very powerful and super exciting. And like I said, if like that first experience, Billy, that we're talking about, funny enough, this week was my first time driving a Waymo as well, or getting in a Waymo as well. I didn't quite have the experience that you did. What I did feel like was, for the first time in a long time, feeling like that I was experiencing something magical. And I think now we're going to be feeling that again in cybersecurity as a result of where tech has finally caught up with the state of the problem in cyber. So lots to be excited about, and appreciate the team here giving us runway to talk about it today. Yeah,
for sure. And I can confirm that this podcast is not sponsored by Waymo, but Waymo, good work for what you guys are doing out there. We're going to transition to a quick, fun, rapid fire segment. We call it the 5-second scramble. You kind of just shout out, whatever comes to mind first. Try to keep it within 5 seconds. Mike, why don't you kind of lead us off with Lucas, and then I can close off with Billy.
Yeah, sounds good. And we might have covered some of these, but still, we'll do our best. So explain Alteryx to me as if I were a 5-year-old.
The enabler for a citizen data analyst.
Nice. What cultural value do you impress most upon your team?
Cultural value? I was going to say
cultural value. Yeah,
like all your passions.
All right. What qualities do you look for in a new hire?
Curiosity.
Yeah. Tech roles you guys are currently hiring for?
Security engineers, security operations, and product security.
What was your first car?
Jeep Wrangler.
Oh, nice. Did you have it? Whatever. Never mind.
Yeah, it was big fat tires. I old school. This is a long time ago.
Was it Jurassic Park version? Is that
It was the Sahara. Yes, it was.
Nice.
I ran it to the ground. The thing wouldn't run when I was done with it.
That's the only way to go. What's an emerging threat you think everyone should be aware of?
I'm still worried about deepfakes and impossible to distinguish social engineering attacks.
That's a good answer.
That's a good one. What's a charity or cause that's near and dear to you?
Any charity or cause that supports single moms raising children.
Yes. What was your favorite toy growing up?
Got to be the old school Voltron, man. The Lion Voltron.
Nice.
It's one of the best. I carried it around like my Cabbage Patch Kid.
Nice. What's something you dislike doing but are very good at?
Oh, gosh. Dislike doing but really good at. Dishes. Nobody does dishes better than me, but I hate it.
Did you by chance work in a restaurant at one point?
No, it's just I grew up with a single mom, which was hence my earlier answer. But like my mom always taught me to be like super attention to detail on doing dishes, and I've never been able to skirt it.
Nice. And last one, what's a surprising hobby of yours?
Surprising hobby of mine, pinball. I love pinball. I've got way too many pinball machines at home.
Oh, wow. That's nice. You have a favorite one?
For me, Guardians of the Galaxy, only because I love that entire franchise. But my favorite to play, probably Godzilla.
Nice.
It's a pinball reference on the pod. I like that.
Yeah, I like
That's cool. All right, good stuff. Bill, you ready?
Sure, man. Let's do it.
All right. If Andesite were an animal, what animal would it be?
Ooh, that's really good.
It's pretty deep.
Some sort of like cougar moving really fast. I don't know.
Yeah, I love it. What's your favorite part about the culture at Andesite?
Yeah, the big thing Brian, our CEO, really emphasizes and that we're really trying to bake into the company is low ego, low drama. And it's like my favorite thing about working here because we really just emphasize our customers and the solutions that we're bringing to the market. And we always and we check ourselves, right? Because we're humans, low ego, low drama.
That's a cool motto. What kind of technologist thrives in your environment?
A really curious, excited one that wants to help the good guys. Right. And I say that in a gender neutral way, right? The good folks, right? Delivering solutions that are really bringing the temperatures down in these SOCs and are making people really love their work again. That's exciting to our team.
Cool. What are a few tech roles that you guys are looking to hire up for in the next 6 months?
Full gamut, really. Product engineering, marketing, sales, customer experience. So I would say just keep an eye on our webpage because as we move closer and closer to our Series A, we're going to have to titrate some of those things. But keep an eye on it if you're interested in joining the team because we'll get those things posted.
Cool. What is a non-negotiable trait that you look for in cybersecurity talent specifically?
Intellectual curiosity.
What was your first job?
I worked in a health club, a fitness club in Niagara Falls, New York called Super Fitness in the late 1980s. I'm pretty old. I was a lifeguard and the pool was awesome. The pool was 4 feet deep. And my dad used to say, your whole job is to yell at people to stand up.
Back in those days.
That's awesome.
That's so good. We're going to need a picture from that era to put as your podcast profile pic.
No.
Not safe for work, Tim. Not safe for work.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, not safe for work. Oh, that's such a good story. I love it. What is your go-to coffee order?
Oh, I love an oat milk latte. I'm not a big dairy guy. So oat milk lattes are it. My wife will bring them to me sometimes during the workday. It's like the best part of my day.
Yeah, actually, I'm a big fan of oat milk latte. Like the oat milk gives it a better flavor profile, totally. In my opinion. Yep. What's something that you love doing, but you're terrible at?
A lot of things. I'm terrible at a lot of things. Let's see. Running. I really like running. I would not describe myself as a gifted runner.
Well said. What's a charity or a philanthropy that's near and dear to you?
My wife and I are longtime supporters of an outfit called Mercy Corps that's based out of Portland, Oregon. And they do a lot of relief in scenarios of natural disaster or war, that type of thing. People who are under duress and suffering. It just really appeals to me to be able to kind of swoop in and help those folks.
Nice. And then aside from the lifeguard job at the gym, what was your dream job as a kid?
I wanted to be Jacques Cousteau. I wanted to be a marine biologist.
In 4-foot water?
Totally. Because the deep stuff's really dangerous, right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, it's cool. I don't know when I veered off from that, but when I was a kid, I was absolutely obsessed with and again, I'm dating myself. There was a show called Oceans Alive, and I would always watch that and any Jacques Cousteau special that came on.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
All right, that's a wrap, guys. Huge thanks to both Billy and Lucas for joining us today. Powerful discussion. Really enjoyed your thoughts and passion that you brought to it. And thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks very much. It was great.
Thank you so much for doing this. Great conversation.
Yep.